Today, we're going to be talking about something that is often overlooked in the weight loss sphere, and that's the role that insulin plays in weight gain and especially in the inability to lose weight, especially long term. So, we'll go over some simple strategies that you can use to improve your insulin response and lose that stubborn weight, as well as improve your health in general. So, at some point, you might have wondered why some people seem to effortlessly lose weight while others struggle despite having a good diet and exercising regularly. And that might be you, like maybe your friend or your spouse, they can eat whatever they want and they never gain weight, but you are strict with what you're eating, you're working out, and you just can't lose those stubborn pounds. Like maybe the scale's just not moving, maybe it's moving in the wrong direction. The answer lies in something that is often overlooked, and that's the role of our hormones in our weight. And one of the main hormones here is insulin. So, we're going to cover what insulin is, why it's a problem, and then what you can do to improve your insulin. So, let's quickly talk about what insulin actually is and what insulin resistance is as well. So, insulin is a hormone that's produced by the pancreas, which is one of the organs in our body, and it plays a key role in regulating blood sugar levels. So it helps cells in the body absorb glucose, which is sugar, from the blood and either use it for energy or store it for future use, and that's fat. Insulin resistance occurs when cells become less responsive to insulin. So your body responds to this resistance by producing more insulin. And these high insulin levels promote fat storage, especially around the abdomen, which makes it much harder to lose weight, even when you are exercising and dieting as well. And this might be one of the reasons why, you are hitting the gym regularly, you're eating well, you're in a caloric deficit, and you're still not losing weight. It's likely that insulin is playing a part in this. And this is something that I've helped my clients with. So this isn't a death sentence, like you are able to make changes, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But in the last year alone, I've helped many of my clients reverse this resistance and lose up to 20 pounds just by optimizing insulin without even having to change anything else. So why is insulin resistance such an issue now? Unfortunately, it's because modern life has set us up for insulin resistance. So most of us find ourselves sitting all day, whether that's in the car, at work, on the couch. We sit a lot. Lack of sleep. It's a known fact that most people aren't getting enough sleep, and that seems to be getting progressively worse. Long commutes, again, where you're sitting, commuting is often quite stressful. There's traffic. That all plays a part in this. Highly processed foods, things like high fructose corn syrup, which is a sweetener, and just high stress work environments and life environments in general. So all of these can contribute to insulin resistance. And unfortunately, it's hard to overcome because it is so ingrained in modern society. But the strategies we're going to talk about will go over how we can overcome that. But just to emphasize why it is so important to consider insulin is that it isn't just weight gain, which obviously comes with a host of problems as well, but it's so many things beyond that. So insulin resistance is linked to cancer. So research suggests that there's a link between insulin resistance and an increased risk of certain cancers. And the mechanisms behind this most likely involve insulin's effect on cell growth and its role in inflammation. So inflammation is going to be a pretty common topic throughout this because inflammation, when it is chronic, so when it's over a long term, it can lead to a ton of different issues. So a bit of inflammation is okay. Like if you cut your knee and it swells up, that's good. That's healing. But when that inflammation lasts for a long time, we run into a lot of issues. So inflammation is a big issue here, and insulin does have a role in that. And the second one here, obesity, more about what we're talking about today. So insulin resistance is both a cause and a consequence of obesity. So it can be actually quite a cycle that is really easy to get into and hard to get out of. So excess fat, especially in the abdominal area, that contributes to the development of insulin resistance, and insulin resistance promotes fat storage. So it is quite a cyclical process. And then there's diabetes, which might be one that people are more familiar with. So insulin resistance is a key factor in the development of type 2 diabetes. And as insulin resistance progresses, the pancreas's ability to produce enough insulin to overcome this goes down. And that leads to elevated blood glucose levels, which leads to inflammation and a lot of these other issues. Then we have hypertension, heart disease, where high blood pressure, high blood sugar, can lead to the oxidation of cholesterol particles, making them very small and very dense. And that essentially causes a traffic jam, which triggers, again, another inflammatory response. And chronic inflammation is a key driver of the progression of buildup of plaques in the arteries. So that's where the risk of heart attacks is coming from. Cognitive decline as well. So there's some evidence that insulin resistance can affect brain function, and that contributes to cognitive decline, increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases as well. So high blood sugar can be quite toxic to the body. And obviously, the brain is especially susceptible to toxins. So that plays a role there. And then non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Insulin resistance can lead to an accumulation of fat in the liver. So as a reminder, insulin helps with fat storage. But when there's too much of that, it can, in some cases, progress to this condition and a more severe form of liver disease as well that can lead to cirrhosis. So as you can see, the issue of insulin resistance goes far beyond simply weight gain or a struggle to lose weight. So we'll get into some strategies now about how you can manage your insulin response. And these are quite simple things that you can implement in your routine that actually have a really big impact. So the first one is optimizing your circadian rhythm. So the idea here is to align your schedule with this circadian rhythm so that you can have a proper insulin response. So the key points here are eating while the sun's up. So try to avoid eating when it's dark out, sleep when it's dark out, avoid bright lights and screens at night, and get morning light exposure and movement. The second one here is optimizing cortisol levels. So stress leads to elevated cortisol, and elevated cortisol increases blood glucose. And that's a survival response. So if you're stressed, your body releases sugar into the blood for energy levels. Unfortunately, most of our stress comes from emails or, busy schedules, and we don't actually need that flood of glucose. And so it's not being used for energy. And so that blood glucose triggers an insulin response. So insulin goes up. And the key here is that you need to find ways to manage cortisol that are going to work for you and incorporate these ideally daily into your schedule. The next one is protein intake. So adequate protein intake is crucial for insulin sensitivity and muscle growth, which is crucial for soaking up that excess glucose. So the key is to aim for 3 meals of 50 grams of protein a day, ideally things like eggs, whey protein, dairy in general, red meat, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, chicken. Those are all some really good sources of protein. And then we've got time restricted eating. So this is related to the point about the circadian rhythm and eating while the sun is up, but reducing your eating window will help to regulate your insulin levels. Insulin drops between meals. So when you eat, insulin goes up. When you're not eating, it goes down. The biggest gap between meals is obviously between your evening and morning meals. And if we can stretch that out a little bit more to 10 to ideally 12 hours, that is a really good way to increase insulin sensitivity. So that might look like you finish eating in the evening by 8 p.m. and you don't eat again until 8 a.m. That would give you an eating window of 12 hours. Then we have strategic carb intake. So carbohydrates are the main driver of increases in blood glucose. Proteins and fats also increase insulin, but not to the same degree that carbohydrates do. And simple carbs drive these spikes even more. So reducing your carb intake, and especially reducing your simple carb intake, will massively improve your blood sugar levels. And another trick here is to time your carbs around your workout. So if you are eating carbs, you could eat them before your workout. That spike in insulin is a good thing. It's going to help your gym performance. You're also going to use the blood sugar when you're working out. So that is a good way to manage it if you are having carbs. Another sort of related topic here is postprandial walk. So that just means walking after a meal. And that's one of the most effective ways to manage post-meal blood sugar spikes. And it also helps with improved insulin sensitivity over time as well. So that's a really good one to implement. If you're not going to do anything else, at least do that. Aim to go for a 10 or 15-minute walk after every meal. That'll have a huge impact. And then the last one here is resistance training. So building muscle improves insulin sensitivity as well, because muscle essentially soaks up excess blood sugar, and that helps this whole process work better. The key here is to aim to lift weights 3 or 4 times a week, and ideally follow a structured program so that you are actually making progress in terms of putting on muscle. So those are 7 key strategies that are effective in helping insulin response and getting out of that cycle of high insulin and fat storage. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that these strategies will help you understand how you can take proactive steps to manage your insulin and lose weight sustainably, and also that it highlighted the importance of why these steps are so important. And if anything in this video resonated with you and you're trying to figure out how to best implement these strategies in your own life, or you are concerned about your insulin levels, or maybe you've been trying to lose weight, you're not losing weight, I'll drop a link to a training video in the comments, and it'll tell you a bit more about what I do and how I might be able to help you to implement this in your own life. So it'll talk about the strategies that I use with my clients in terms of how I help them optimize hormones, improve metabolism, lose weight, build muscle, all in an effective and sustainable way.